Welcome to today's video. Today is a bit of an experiment. I've never done a skeletal model figure thing before, so don't judge me. So originally I planned on making a Pikachu model and then baking it, which is why I started with this wire skeleton for the pose, and then I wrapped it in aluminum foil to bulk it out so that it wouldn't be too thick so that I could bake it. But I ended up not doing that because it turned out really bad. And it used a lot more clay than I expected it to, and if I want to be able to do more clay stuff the rest of this week, I kind of need clay for that. So I just undid everything when I was done. You might have seen the piece of paper that I showed at the very beginning. I had sketched out a few different ideas. I had a cat, I had a flower, I had a peace sign, you know, with somebody's hand. And for some reason I chose Pikachu standing like this, and it kept saying that it looked like Donkey from Shrek. And I still think it looked a little bit more like a cat, besides the long ears, which is what made him think of Donkey, but... So I was trying to make a Pikachu, and not like the original Pikachu where he's all fat, but like a more modern Pikachu where for some reason all of a sudden he's lost a crap ton of weight, and I don't know. I thought this would be easier than it is. So I just started laying sheets of clay down just to get like a little base going, and I wanted to try to keep it as thin as possible because if I was gonna bake it, I'd want to keep the time down. So keeping the layers thin would, you know, cook it more evenly, and it just was really chunky because of the chunky aluminum underneath. And so eventually I kept adding layers and layers and layers, and smoothed out a little bit, but it was still pretty chunky. I think it looked okay at the end. If I had kept adding, you know, another layer or two and smoothing it out, and then say I were to bake it, I could just sand it down so that it would be smooth, and it probably would have looked okay. But again, I didn't have that much clay. It used almost all of my clay. For our first attempt, though, at something even remotely like this, I've never done this before, and for a first attempt, I think I did pretty decent. I think that I got the proportions pretty decently correct, which I was so worried would be just way off. Like the head would be too big or too small, and the butt would be, you know, too big or too small. And while I was making the foil, I wanted to try to bulk out the booty so that it would look a little bit more like the cartoon, and I wanted to make sure that there weren't any dips where the arms met the body, like the shoulders and the knee areas, and the ears were so hard because they're so tiny and flimsy and the clay is so thin right there. That was hard. The face was really fun though. Maybe I could try to just do a face or something. That would be really fun to do. I like all the curvatures in faces. This tail, I should have had a better wire setup going on for the tail. It was not easy doing this, and this looks so much better on camera than it did in person because of the harsh light in person, but the camera picked it up differently. It looks a bit more smooth, and so you can't really see how chunky Pikachu actually is. You can kind of see, but from my angle working on this with the lighting that I had, you could see all of the chunks. Look at that cute little butt. Definitely still needed to make the hips a little wider though, but it turned out pretty okay. And here it is tearing it down because it used almost all of my clay. And honestly, I think the little skeleton kind of looks a little bit cooler than the clay bit, so I want to keep the little skeleton. I think it looks cool. If you've ever done anything like this before, like I've seen people do it, but doing it myself is like a completely different experience. If you've ever done anything like this before, let me know how you think I did compared to like how you're actually supposed to do stuff. This was a good first try. I learned a lot, and I hope you liked this video. I had fun. I hope you have a wonderful day, and happy crafting!